thankful for that. So the of our series was, are we responding God's way? Are you? Sometimes I am. It's beneficial to me. Then, I'm able to. But the idea here is, are you responding God's way? So this morning, with your response God's way, I want to add a little bit of obedience. Dirty word. Obedient. How obedient? How about to death? Wait a minute. To death? How about losing everything? I have to lose my job obediently to. Yeah, obedient. How obedient are you to God? Are you only obedient when you get what you ask for? Or are you only obedient in waiting to get what you ask for? So the idea this morning is to come to the understanding that God is asking us to be obedient, to add obedience to our faithfulness, so that when things don't go our way, we come to the same understanding and assurance that God is still in control and that he still reigns. See, that's the understanding we need to come to. With all the chaos that's happening around us, we don't have to go far to come to the assurance and the understanding that God is still in control. I can put my big boy pants on. I don't have to cry because God is still in control. I mean, I couldn't cry. That's the understanding we need to understand. And if you have that understanding, then responding back to the world becomes something of, I was thinking, I was like, so many times, right, we pay too much attention to our reputation. My reputation is who I am. You can't destroy my reputation. I'll be like, you care about my reputation more than I do, because I know who I am in God. Nothing you say or do will ever change that. If it's constructive, I take it. If it's not, I leave it where it's at. And that's how we're supposed to respond to things. But many times our response is not always that pretty easy. I keep using traffic, but it's one of those things that I don't know what it is about traffic. Somebody cuts you off, it's the end. Woo! It's the end, isn't it? It reminds me of the story, right? This guy had the sticker of "In God We Trust." He was a member of the church, and he was very loving and kind to everybody. And then one afternoon, there's a car in front of him at the red light, and the light went red, and then it went green, and the car in front of him never moved. So he proceeded to tell the young man in front of him, in the nicest way possible, by leaning on his horn and never letting off. And the light went from green, it went back to yellow, then it went to red again. And this time, he rolled the window down and he threw all kinds of signs at him. I thought he was playing baseball, but he wasn't playing baseball. So he's there, and then the light turned green again. And this time, he proceeded to give the guy some choice words as to why you're not paying attention. So the police officer pulled up behind him, and he looked at the bumper, and then he looked at him. He looked at the bumper, and they asked for his ID. He said, I knew it was you from the car, but according to the back of the bumper and what your ID said and what you're actually doing, doesn't scream the person that I know in church on Sunday. That's the response we're not looking for, right? That's the response that usually happens. But this morning, we're going to be taking a look into Daniel chapter 3, verse 16 to 18. And we're going to look at the response of both of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abendengo. Or if you're young growing up, Abendengo, or too bad you go. Shadrach, Meshach, and Abendengo. Okay, and see how they responded and how God was elated and how they responded. All right. So if you're there, we're at Daniel chapter 3, verse 16 to 18. And it reads, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abendengo replied to the king, O Nebuchadnezzar, we do not need to give you an answer concerning this matter. If it be so, our God, whom we serve, is able to deliver us from the furnace of blazing fire, and he will deliver us out of your hand, O king. But even if he does not, Let it be known to you, O king, that we are not going to serve your gods or worship the golden image that you have set up. Let that sink in. Their response is perfect and selfless. Our response is imperfect and selfish. Big difference, isn't it? I'm flabbergasted by this every time I read it, and more importantly, every time I apply it to my life. So many times we pray for things, and when God does not respond in the time we have given him, let that sink in. We give God a timetable for when he has to respond to our request. It will seem as if God works for us instead of the other way around. We take roles or positions that were never meant for us. Too often we switch roles. We play God's part. Sounds familiar? It should. Just ask Sarah. In Genesis chapter 16, verse 1 through 6, Sarah, Abram's wife, have not borne him no children. And she had an Egyptian maid whose name was Hagar. And I believe you know how that story goes. Sarah, God told Abraham, I'm going to give you a son. Sarah said, can't really wait that long. I mean, I'm old. And here's my maiden. She's young. She's able to give you a child if you want it. And what does Abraham do? What a genius. He sides with his wife instead of God. Right? Abraham sides with his wife. I mean, it was a great choice, wasn't it? Talk about a world-class mess being made. God didn't ask her to create a way to do it, did he? All she had to do was wait upon God's time. Now let's go to Abram, the genius. In Abram, we find someone who refused to stand with God, but he sided with his wife. We saw the same in Adam. He ate the fruit without asking, or questioning. So it's the same with Abram, who chose to lay with Hagar at the request of his wife. That's not what God told him, is it? Only Job was smart enough to refuse his wife's request to curse God and die. Adam, Abram, hey, the wife wants it. Job, what are you, crazy? Curse God and die? No. See, she must have forgotten about suffering for a little while is better than suffering for all eternity for cursing who created you. She's not the only one. We all go through hard times and then blame God, knowing very well we were the cause of the hard time, right? Perhaps now you understand Luke 14, verse 26 to 27. When Jesus himself would say, if anyone comes to me and does not hate his own father and mother and wife and children and brothers and sisters, yes, even his own life, he cannot be me. He cannot be my disciple. Whoever does not carry his own cross and come after me cannot be my disciple. What does he say? Does he say to hate them to the point that you have nothing? No. Does he say to hate your life to the point that you want it? No. He is saying, if I am not at the center of your life, then you will continue to take other things above me, is what he's saying. If God was at the top of Abram's life, he would have known one wife was enough. I'm just saying. But he listens to his wife. Now, gentlemen, I'm not saying not to listen to your wife. That's not what I'm saying. I'm not saying that. Love you. But I'm saying God has to be number one. When God is number one, everything else will fall into their rightful place. That's what he asked you when he said, seek my kingdom and my righteousness first, and everything else will be added, right? But we make that mistake. I'm looking for a godly woman, but I'm not a godly man. How does that work? How does that work? We have to stop playing roles or positions that are not meant for us. We have to learn to stay obedient and patient with God's time, because she refused to wait on the Lord's time. She ended up creating a world-class mess. So now God has to clean up that mess, then proceed with his original plan. We have to learn to put the interests of God first. Last week we found out that Joshua's ambitions was also God's ambitions. Isn't that amazing? When your want and God want meet, when your needs and God's needs line up together, right? That's what he says. I have a plan for your life. A plan for what? Prosperity and not calamity. But you say, no, Lord, the world has a plan for my life. I like what the world has for me, because you're not patient enough to wait, or you're not obedient in your waiting. It's more like it. Seek his kingdom and his righteousness, and everything will be found in their rightful places, which is exactly what these young men did. Even at the cost of their death, they responded to the king. We are not going to obey you. But here's the cool thing, right? They said, even if God doesn't save us, they didn't say God wasn't able to. Big difference. They said, our God is able to. But even if he doesn't, we're not going to worship what you have put up. Man, obedient to death. How many of us are that obedient? Don't even obey the traffic signs. It's suggested. Yellow means slow down. No, I mean go really fast before red comes. Did you notice how they were not loud or being rude or disrespectful towards the king? They continued to give him his respect, even to the point when the furnace was turned on them. See, so many times as Christians, we come across as rude and disrespectful, all in the name of the Lord. That is not necessary. Even when making correction or accepting our own persecution from the world, we must always stay respectful and with all the gentleness, just like Christ did. Who is our example? Remember when he was on the cross? They spat on him, pierced his side. They said he wasn't who he was, and he's hanging there, bleeding. What he says? Father, forgive them, for they do not know what they are doing. They're doing it, and he's asking for forgiveness on their behalf. So when somebody steps on your foot, don't step on both of them. But try to get even. I had an instructor that said, I don't get even, I get more. And that's what we do. We don't get even. We get more. That's not the response we're supposed to have. That's not obedient. We were joking this morning when Bill knocked David's hand. I was like, David, give him the other hand. David's like, I'm glad it's not the cheek. I was like, you still got to give the other cheek. It doesn't matter. But our response is not like that all the time. Because if somebody hits you, instinctively, ooh, I'm going to get you back. I heard a child once had this, the mom asked him, why did you hit your brother? Because he was going to hit me first. Now that's a preventive hit, right? But that's our response most of the time. It don't have to be. Even when you're accepting persecution, it still has to be with gentleness and respect all the time. That's how he did it. And that's our example when the time comes. See, because of their faith and their trust they had in God, of faith and trust that was rooted in their obedience to him and his will, of faith and trust that wouldn't break even if God does not save them, even if it meant their death. Their response was, whether he takes us out of this furnace or not, we will make it very clear to you that our God is the only God we are going to serve. But if he doesn't, they said, I guess we're okay with burning, right? Are you okay with standing with God and being judged by the world? A lot of us don't do that. You're too afraid to let everybody know who you are, right? Because they're going to judge you. Let's turn to 2 Timothy chapter 3, verse 12. I think why do we forget this verse? All who desire to live a godly life will be treated with the utmost respect. No? No. It says all who desire to live a godly life will be persecuted. If you choose God, what are you choosing? Persecution. So it is not to be blindsided by it. You should be expecting it. Be prepared for it. What's the worst thing somebody can say to you? No. Cool. Moving on. You're a hideous human being. Okay, cool. Why? I know who I am. But the response back is, are you obedient when it comes to losing everything? The obedience to God at the cost of their life, if need be, was the response that God has been asking for. And for those who are making a claim to be Christian. Obedient to death. Sound familiar? If you turn to Philippians chapter 2, verse 5 to 8. It should. Philippians 2, 5 to 8. Have this attitude in yourself, which was also in Christ Jesus, who, although he existed in the form of God, did not regard equality with God a thing to grasp, but emptied himself, taking the form of a bond servant, and being made in the likeness of men, being found in appearance as a man, he humbled himself by becoming obedient to the point of death, even death on the cross. Obedient to death. Are you willing to die for this faith that you have? Wait a minute, I have to die? There's an old saying that says everybody wants to go to heaven, but nobody wants to die. Are you willing to obediently die for this faith that you have? Some of us are not even willing to suffer for our faith. Some of us are not yet ready to be persecuted for our faith. Some of us are not even ready or prepared to give our life for this faith. Why do you ask? Great question. It's not like we haven't been warned about all of this. The sad truth is we have not yet counted the cost of living for God. Or worse, we have counted the cost, but have chosen the ways of the world instead of this. Which is a direct path to hell. I can't deny that. Just in case you were wondering, you're not the standard for life. If you choose to live a life your way, hell is the destination for you for all eternity. Like I was saying earlier, we've been given ample warning. Matthew 16, verse 24 to 28. Matthew 16, verse 24 to 28. Then Jesus said to his disciples, if anyone wishes to come after me, he must deny himself and take up his cross and follow me. For whoever wishes to save his life will what? Lose it. But whoever loses his life for my sake will find it. But what would it profit a man if he gains the whole world and forfeits his soul? Or what will a man give in exchange for his soul? For the Son of Man is going to come into the glory of his Father with his angels, and he will then repay every man according to his deeds. How's your deeds going? Truly, I say to you, there are some of those who are standing here who will not taste death until they see the Son of Man coming in his kingdom. Here's the thing. Some of us will not taste that But that does not mean that some of us got to be praying like, Lord, don't kill me, don't kill me, don't kill me, don't kill me, Lord, don't kill me. That's not what it says. It says some of you will not taste death. Don't focus on the not dying for. Focus on the what are you doing for it. That's the response he's looking for when he asks, what are you been doing? Or he's going to give according to your deeds. That's what the focus on. In John 12:24-26, it says, truly, truly, I say to you, unless a grain of wheat falls into the earth and dies, it remains alone. But if it dies, it bears much fruit. He who loves his life loses it, and he who hates his life in this world will keep it to life eternal. If anyone serves me, he must follow me, and where I am, there my servant will be also. If anyone serves me, the Father will honor him. I think we said it this morning when I said, if you say you know Jesus, but you say you know God, but you don't know Jesus, you don't know God. If you know Jesus, then you know God. If you know Jesus, Jesus said, if you know me, then you will know the work and the miracle I have performed. Therefore, you will do these same work and these same miracles. No, these same works. Thank you. You will do the same work, but you will do a greater one of these. So when you ask for anything in my name, I will give you if you are doing these works. But we think all I have to do is pray to God, and God will answer my prayer because, I know Jesus. That's not what it says, is it? Not at all. You have to be seen doing his work. Greater number of it. Now let's return to another figure whose response was different from that. What God was expecting of him. If you turn to 1 Samuel chapter 15, verse 22-23, we will meet Saul. Oh, when I read Saul, it reminded me straight of Adam in the garden. You see it. Let's see if you pay attention. 1 Samuel 15, 13-26. Samuel came to Saul, and Saul said to him, blessed are you of the Lord. I have carried out the command of the Lord. But Samuel said, what then is this bleating of the sheep in my ear, and the lowing of the oxen which I hear? Saul said, they have brought them from the Amalekites, for the people spare the best of the sheep and oxen to sacrifice to the Lord your God. But the rest we have utterly destroyed. Then Samuel said to Saul, wait, and let me tell you what the Lord said to me last night. And he said to him, speak. Samuel said, is it not true, though, you were little in your own eyes? You were made the head of the tribe of Israel. And the Lord anointed you king over Israel. And the Lord sent you on a mission and said, go and utterly destroy the sinners, the Amalekites. Fight against them until they are exterminated. Why then did you not obey the voice of the Lord, but rushed upon the spoils and did what was evil in the sight of the Lord? Then Saul said to Samuel, I did obey the voice of the Lord and went on a mission which the Lord sent me. And I brought back Agag, the king of the Amalek. Yes, Amalek. And have utterly destroyed the Amalekites. But the people took some of the spoils, sheep and oxen, and choices of things devoted to destruction, to sacrifice to the Lord your God at Gilgal. Samuel said, has the Lord as much delight in burnt offering and sacrifices as in obeying the voice of the Lord? Behold, to obey is better than sacrifice, and to heed than that fat of rams. For the rebellion is as the sin of the divination, and the subordination is an iniquity and idolatry, because you have rejected the word of the Lord. He has also rejected you from being king. Then Saul said to Samuel, I have sinned. I have indeed transgressed the command of the Lord and your words, because I fear the people and listen to their voice. Now, therefore, please pardon my sin and return with me, that I may worship the Lord. But Samuel said to Saul, I will not return with you, for you have rejected the word of the Lord, and the Lord has rejected you from being king over Israel. Pretty simple instruction given, right? Destroy everything. Everything means everything. In the first series, we heard about Achan. He kept some stuff for himself. That didn't end well, right? Not only he had to be killed, right? His whole family had to be killed, stoned and burned. Now, here's another person given complete control over everything with one instruction given: destroy the sinners, all of it. What do you do? Samuel tells Saul, if you have done what God had asked of you, why do I hear the bleating and the noises of the animals in my ear? To which Saul responds, the people brought the best animals to make sacrifice to the Lord. See, this is where I have to implore you to be a great Bible reader. If you weren't paying close attention, you missed it. He basically blaming the people whom he was put in charge of. The people brought the animal to make sacrifice to the God. Does that sound familiar to you? It should. Try this one. The people are prone to evil things. Turn to Exodus 32, verse 19 to 24. It came about as soon as Moses came near the camp that he saw that the cow and the dancing, and Moses' anger burned, and he threw the tablet from his hand and shattered them at the foot of the mountain. He took the calf which they had made and burned it with fire, and the ground it was to the ground, and it scattered all over the surfaces of the water and made the sons of Israel to drink it. Then Moses said to Aaron, what did this people do to you, that you have brought such great sin upon them? And Aaron answered the question. Aaron said, do not let the anger of my Lord burn you. You know the people yourself, that they are prone to evil. But they said to me, here's the best part, make a God for us who will go before us. For this Moses, the man who brought us up from the land of Egypt. So they didn't do it for me, they did it for you. We do not know what has become of him. I said to them, whoever has any gold, let them tear it off. So they gave it to me, and I threw it into the fire, and out came the cow. I don't think that's how that works. You know, but that's the answer he gave them. First off, you were gone for a long time. Plus, you know these people. They're prone to evil things. And again, they asked for this. They didn't know where you are. And so they wanted to honor you. And so I told them, give me all the gold that you have. And I threw it into the thing, and that's what came out. Isn't that how it works? But the rest, he utterly destroyed. It doesn't matter that you destroyed the rest. The problem was you didn't do what God asked of you. And once again, we have another example of a man answering a question that was never asked to him. Samuel asked Saul, what am I hearing? And Saul's answer was the people. God asked Adam, what did you do? Adam said, the woman you placed here. Wasn't my fault, God. It was yours and the woman you placed here. Saul's in charge of the people, telling Samuel that the people took the animal. See, when we are not obedient to the Lord, we will be compromising our salvation for temporary things. We are not here to please others. We are here to please God and give him all the praises and glory. We need to be obedient in our faith, in our walk with God. Even if it's at the cost of our lives, we must stay faithful with the Lord. Just like Shadrach, Meshach, and Abendengo in Daniel 3, verse 16 to 18, we need to be obedient even to the cost of our life, even if it means losing all that we have. Here's a quick thing. Remember this. All that you have belongs to who? God. You're on borrowed time. So the question is, are you willing to start with God? Are you willing to lose it all for the Lord? Even if God doesn't do what you want him to do, are you willing to continue to be faithful to him? Are you willing to stand with God and be judged by the world? Or are you willing to stand with the world and be judged by the Lord? See, how we respond to what the world throws back at us speaks volume about who we are and what we are about. So, what did we learn this morning? First off, I'd like to blame John. John, he didn't put on top of the page, start the timer, so. We didn't start the timer. What did we learn? We learned that God is asking for us to be obedient in our faithfulness to him. We have to be willing to lose everything for the Lord's sake. We must be willing to always choose the Lord because he's always choosing us. If you remember Job, it is God who said, have you considered my servant Job to Satan? So every day he says, Nathan is up. Have you considered my servant Nathan? Nathan said, yeah, I hear you, God, but the Red Sox on, I gotta watch that. But it's not like that. He's choosing you every morning you wake up. Every morning you wake up, you feel pain. That's an opportunity for you to praise God because somebody didn't wake up. Every morning you wake up, you're able to see the wonders of his glory. His ability for you to thank him because somebody cannot see those things. See it? The stuff we take for granted, like breathing easily without any help. We're entitled to those things. You're entitled to death. That's what you're entitled to. You got mercy. See, every day you wake up, is the Lord saying, I will still be choosing you. And your response is, hey, the world looks good. Shadrach, Meshach, and Abendengo chose God, even at the cost of their life. They didn't say that God couldn't, because he can. But even if he doesn't, they weren't going to choose the idols or the image of the king I put up for them. See, question is, how many of us are willing to be that obedient? How many of us are willing to be that obediently faithful in our walk with God every day? That's the question. And your response will let us know if you're of God or if you're of the world. You can't do both. You can't. So if you're here this morning and you're willing to make a response that is both godly and faithful, and you're willing to accept the persecution because it comes with the job, and you're willing to be added to the body, we actually come down to be baptized, because Christ said there's only one way to the Father, and that's through baptism. There's only one way the sin can be washed away. There's only one way to begin this journey with us, and that's through the water and the Spirit being added to you. You're here this morning, you need that we actually come down as we stand to sing our song of invitation.